WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We got the new brand, we got the sunshine, we got the Zoom. Gives me a chance to say hello to some old friends here. It is draft weekend. I want to remind everybody you can get the Wise Markets this weekend. Make sure you're working at seafood, working at chicken on the buffet, and doing all the good stuff as well. Bring it home, get the fried chicken, take it out. Appreciate everyone and sponsorship of Wise Markets, helping out at MDA and rounding up as well. Mike Tanier joins us now. He is my favorite run and gun gangster and a former math teacher of Joe Flacco, somewhere in the swamps of Jersey. It is good to see your face, man. The Zoom things worked out all right. I like seeing you better at the buffet at the media in the Super Bowl, but
I feel better at the buffet of the media at the Super Bowl or at the combine or anything else. But I'm very used to working out of my home office here, and there's a ray of hope. We were talking off camera about vaccinations. I'm fully vaccinated right now, and I'm looking forward to getting back on the road a little bit and doing some of this NFL coverage live instead of from the friendly confines.
Are they going to let us back in? That's the first question. I'm beginning to wonder as well. People, Kansas City, calling me about this big trade, and I'm like, I haven't been around for a year. I don't know, why they would send Orlando Brown out in a walk year when they can have an angry version of him at right tackle trying to win. I don't know, but the action's been pretty fast and furious around here so far, and all of a sudden, the draft is taken on more fun than the Orioles, Tanier. I'll tell you that.
I think everything's more fun than the Orioles, but yeah, the Ravens, they went from that team at the end of the draft, and it's like, maybe they'll get one of the receivers, but I always thought they're going to get one of the interior linemen because that's where you were drafting at the end. Now you got 2 first-round picks, granted, at the end. That creates a lot of intriguing scenarios there where you could possibly trade up for your impact guy, or you could double dip. You could go interior line, exterior line on the offensive line. You could get a lineman and a receiver, or you could start to rebuild on defense. I think that there's needs at places like edge rushers, needs at places like secondary, a lot of different directions the Ravens can suddenly go in.
Is there a part of you that would worry that Eric DeCosta is fleecing you if you were getting dealt Orlando Brown? You watch a lot of film. You're a bit of a draft nick, over the course of years through all of this. I called this a fleecing on the front end because I don't believe the Ravens would deal him unless they got what they felt was a king's ransom. They weren't going to re-sign him. Running around on Instagram saying how much you want out is not something we're used to here in Baltimore, Mike. Yeah. I'm used to that from the Orioles, but no one ever asks out of the Purple Kingdom, And if you do, it apparently, you will be granted your wish because they don't want you if you don't want to be here.
Well, there's a 1-2 punch between that kind of disgruntlement and the fact that I think it was largely a contract situation. And when you start trying to stack up the salary cap situation for the Ravens moving forward, especially when you have a Lamar Jackson extension we think is going to happen somewhere in the pipeline, you cannot keep everybody. And the reality was that you were probably not going to keep an Orlando Brown that expected to be compensated the way left tackles are compensated, et cetera. So I would worry about a fleecing unless I would say Andy Reid. Because Andy Reid knows his offensive linemen. He knows how he can kind of maintain a culture there where, Orlando Brown starts kicking up and screaming and everything, and Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey and all the leaders in that team and the Honey Badger are like, no, that's not how we do it here. And is going to be able to work with that player. So overall, I thought that was a deal that that benefited both sides. I don't think the Ravens got a ton back. I think they got a lot back, but did not get a ton back there. And it was a situation that was not going to get better without a trade, frankly. And so this is the right move. They can turn around in this draft class, possibly get a pure right tackle sitting at the end of that draft, possibly get I know that we've talked about, I've heard names like Villanueva coming in. I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Mitchell Schwartz were to come in at a prove-it type salary, and you can solve that right tackle situation. And then you can turn around and you can address the needs elsewhere.
Well, the Ravens are so weird in the way that they are offensively put together, right? They are completely the outlier, like running a Navy offense. Different value on wide receiver, different needs for wide receivers, different needs for offensive linemen. Yet the national types, when they spit it up against Buffalo, and I had the Kansas City guys hazing me saying, we never play you guys in January because you never get there. And I'm yeah, that's a good point. You're making a fine point. Mm-hmm. The notion that this offense and what you want an offensive lineman to do, what you want a wide receiver to do, yet the media wants them to throw the ball better, more efficient, all of that. They're not going to throw the ball more. Could they throw it more efficiently? Yes. Do wide receivers drop balls in this offense? Yes, they have. If they caught them all, maybe things would be different. But this team's not far away from a Super Bowl as it's put together. And to think that they're going to get a wide receiver in the free agent market, that's not happening. That if you want that wide receiver, whoever that guy is going to catch 7 or 8 or 9 balls, not 12 or 14 or 16 balls, and be targeted like that in this offense, whatever that would be, you're going to have to find that in the draft.
I think so. And also, I look at the outlay and the capital at wide receiver right now. Marquise Brown was a first-round pick. Boykin was a third-round pick. DuVernay was a third-round pick. You do have Sammy Watkins coming in from Kansas City. There is talent. There has been an investment at that position. It all has to grow together to keep kind of throwing, first-round picks, second-round picks at that position and saying, okay, we're not going to throw the ball a lot. Lamar Jackson still has to improve as an outside passer. I don't think that that's a secret anymore, some kind of weird like conspiracy theory. He has to be able to be more effective throwing outside the numbers. It's not the receivers at this point. It's partially.
And by the way, you say that as like, if he can't, I don't think they can win a Super Bowl, right?
No, he has to get to a certain point at that. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the greatest out, like John Elway being able to snipe the corners there. But and I think he did improve in the second half of last season. But there were times that it just like getting the like you could see the defense just kind of crowding in, and it's like the ball's not going to go out there. But it's going to go out there. It's going to be off target. Little things like he has to reset his feet. I think is an overall footwork and mechanics when he turns to the sidelines has to improve. They do need to improve that. I don't think you necessarily solve that by getting more wide receivers than you've already got. What you can solve is you can say, okay, we did bring in Zietler on the interior offensive line. We lost a lot of interior offensive linemen. This is supposed to be built around the power run off the middle, setting up the option, setting up the play action passes over the middle of the field. You can solve that real quickly in this draft by getting one of these centers, by getting like an extra tackle, et cetera. That's the route I think they're going to go in so that they can be more like themselves. And by the way, those Chiefs guys can haze you all the want. And the answer is, hey, we don't get to play the Broncos, Raiders, and Chargers twice a year each. You gotta deal with the Steelers twice a year. You got to deal with some real opponents, not these teams that are in like constant rebuilding mode. It's a little harder for the Baltimore Ravens. They got to execute better, but it's not like they have an easy road to get deep into the playoffs.
But isn't there a thing deep down, if you're Eric DeCosta, thinking if Orlando Brown's going to be the franchise left tackle of the Kansas City Chiefs, you would not have dealt him off to Pittsburgh or Cleveland if you believed in him. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where I am with this deal. That makes me think that they were happy to get rid of him. That was a happy divorce for them. And they won't say that because it's not the way they operate. Yeah. But at heart, if we're talking about the trade and why we're going to have the extra, fun on Thursday, fun on draft weekend, it's because they drafted a kid in the third round, played really well, moved into left tackle, played even better, to the point where they got a first rounder. I know you would say it was a 40-something through all the value of all the picks that swung back and forth, but they're going to be on the clock with two really premium football players on Thursday night, and they feel better about that, and they probably should.
Well, what's Ronnie Stanley's health status right now?
Well, that's a big question, right? I mean, that's the reason I sat here for 3 months. That's the reason when Peter King and Eric Edholm and, and all these guys, Zrebeck came on last week, we all looked at it and said, they're trying to win the Super Bowl. They're going to tell that kid to go back to right tackle. They're going to say, if we need you in a pinch, we'll put you over here. But we want to win a Super Bowl. Lamar's still on a rookie deal. Go win a ring. You'll go get paid somewhere else. We thought that that's what was going to happen. At 5 o'clock on Friday, the WNST text gets sent out by courtesy of Coons Florida Security Boulevard, and all of a sudden we're talking about draft picks and back and forth. It's really made me scratch my head all weekend and say, this is unusual. This is unusual. And talking winners and losers in deals in the middle of April, it's not something I've done here at WNST much the last 25 years. We don't talk about these pre-draft deals because the Ravens have never had a gun held to their head by a kid in the last year of a deal saying, trade me. And they said, well, go get something of value. And it actually worked out. I didn't think anybody'd be offering that up for Orlando Brown. I really didn't.
Well, okay, DeCosta and Harbaugh know Stanley's health status. I'm guessing they don't pull this trigger if they don't expect Stanley back.
Fair enough, right? You'd have to think.
Right. Now look at Orlando Brown. Was he end of first round or was he second round? He slipped. I don't have it in front of me right now.
I'll get his number out, but go ahead.
Right. So here's a young man who probably was not where he thought he was going to be in the draft order, which means his rookie contract wasn't what he expected to
He
be.
was the 83rd pick because
right, so
he stunk in Indianapolis.
Yeah, he had this horrible combine. It looked ridiculous. So he slid. So he doesn't have fifth-year options. He doesn't have all of that. He believes he's a left tackle. He knows where that left tackle money is. He is blocked by Ronnie Stanley at this point. So saying, I want left tackle money and you got to pay me that if I stay at right tackle, again, that puts you in that situation there. So
but if
right.
you want to win this year and you feel like you're a better football team, you just say to him, go play right tackle, which is what we really thought they would say to a two-time Pro Bowl right tackle. It wouldn't be like, we're going to deal you off for a draft pick. We're trying to win, and you're a part of winning. And I guess at what point you decide you don't want to be here, psychologically, I could see John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta saying, good night. You know, when you're checking out on Instagram, we just tried to win a Super Bowl and you won out. We will work harder to accommodate that.
I get that, but you have an individual working towards his ends to a degree too, and to say you go there and play, and we don't even have that money for you. We do not even have that money for you, because I think that's what you're saying in the long run. No, we can't give you Lane Johnson's contract at right tackle because our priorities are A, B, C, D, E. Lamar Jackson's A, and there's the other guys who are B and C, and your priority D. He hears that it goes south, you make that move, okay? And then you find a suitor who's willing to say, yeah, here's the 32nd overall, or the 31st overall pick in the draft, whatever it was at this point, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think that that's like necessarily toxic. I don't think that's necessarily disastrous. But you're right, you do have to fill that hole there. And I think the logic is, I don't think they're getting that right tackle in the draft unless they get one second, third round. I think that person's going to be competing with a Villanueva. It's going to be competing with, I don't know, Mitchell Schwartz. I can pull up a couple other names they might look at here. But that's why I can't look at that and say, oh, this is a disaster, or this is a Ravens team that isn't fundamentally serious about winning this year. They're in that, they're in that position. The Eagles were in that position. And the Saints were in that position where it's like, do we leverage the hell out of everything for 1 year, or do we try to like make sure that we can keep this going 2 or 3 years? I think they're heading in the direction of let's keep this going 2 or 3 years. When you look at the Eagles right now, the Saints right now, I don't think you can say, oh, that's a bad decision.
Well, Mike, you're up in Philadelphia, man, where you thought the Eagles were together forever and they broke the band up, right? It was almost like, a little premature. It was like Stone Temple Pilots or something going on up there. But in the case of the Ravens, and I talk big picture about this with people like you that have been doing this a long time, it's that the Ravens, Eric DeCosta can deal in Orlando Brown off knowing that he's going to be the one making the picks in 23 and 24 because the organization works that way, and the Eagles didn't work that way, and a lot of places don't work that way, and the Chiefs haven't worked that way, and the Browns haven't worked that way. The Steelers have worked that way, right, for a long time. The Bengals worked that way for a long time where they had some continuity. In the case of Orlando Brown, they've turned the 83rd pick into 3 years of quality football, a first-round pick with an extra year. And it goes without saying, that deal to get Lamar in the first year, that helps, right? And it also it helps that the Ravens are shrewd enough that a general manager cares about the 5th year of a rookie deal to think, I'm going to be here winning a championship when that guy's around.
Right.
This is a fascinating deal on a lot of levels between two high-level organizations. And the Kansas City guys are asking about it. I'm like, come back to me in a year and let's grade what 31 equals, what the Chiefs get with that second-round pick, what Orlando Brown. Because remember, the Eagles were the team dealing all the quarterbacks and back and forth. And we're like, how many quarterbacks are they going to take? How many Sam Bradford deals are they going to give? And then the Ravens go and draft Hayden Hurst and deal him off. And we're like, why are they dealing Hayden Hurst? Because what if Nick Boyle gets hurt? And he did. But they turned that into Dobbins, right? So you wind up putting these names in after the draft, and it really becomes a fuller picture of what Eric DeCosta thinks of the 27th to 31st pick and evaluating all these players and whether Villanueva, the teams know so much more than we do, Mike.
They do. They know a lot more there. And one of the things they know most of all when you talk about that continuity is what exactly Harbaugh wants, what exactly Wink wants, what exactly Greg Roman wants in these guys. So I can sit here and I can take a look at a center. I can look at Quinn Moretz, University of Wisconsin Whitewater, and say, oh, what an athletic guy. I saw him at the Senior Bowl. He looks like this. He looks like that. They're looking at, well, how does he do this exact type of blocking scheme? What will he do in this situation? And yeah, they had a Zoom meeting with him and they said, oh, this this guy responds to this kind of coaching, that kind of coaching. We talked to his coaches and learned all that. So they can do that. The Ravens excel at these things because they're not guessing, like you said, who the coach is going to be in 2 years. Oh, totally different scheme, totally different mentality. That doesn't happen with the Ravens. So they can do that. And 27 through 32, they've obviously done a good job in those spots of the draft. We all know that going back to Ozzie, it's the second and third round. It's the compensatory picks. It's the developmental picks. That's where they really earn it. That's where they consistently fill this roster out. And I think they're putting themselves in position to keep doing that.
Mike Tanier joining us here, the run and gun gangster, getting ready for the draft and wearing the Philly Daddy-O hat there. I love that. I can't wait to get back up there for a cheesesteak with you at some point, maybe a show. By the way, man, one of my real regrets, and I know I told you this, I love coming up to the Man. My buddy Toby runs the Man the last couple of years. So I've come up there for some shows. I passed on the Hall & Oates show at Hershey like in February of last year thinking, well, I'll go up for the Hoagie Fest. And, but then it doesn't happen. Now I put it back on my calendar for later this summer. So I'm starting to feel like there's going to be a beer at Merriweather, and you're a rock and roll guy as well, and getting ready for all of this stuff. So I just wanted to give a little Philadelphia love to you because, like, I need to get back to some shows big time.
It was the Hoagie Fest, by the way, and it was Hall & Oates and Squeeze. And I am a huge Squeeze fan, and my wife and I had tickets for that. And of course, that went out the window. But I would start crying. I would actually start crying for the things that we had to turn down here. Not just like things that my wife and I were going to do, but things for my children that were canceled, et cetera, et cetera. So, but like it's starting to come back. I want to take baby steps. You're talking about, going to the Man or going to any of the big outlets. I want to go to the Scottish Rites in Collingswood. I want to see a Genesis tribute band. I want to see Steve Hackett come around with some 22-year-old singer and do suppers ready. I want to see little shows like that, coffee house performers, and then I can work my way up to saying, when's Springsteen coming back? When are we going to get a Hard Rock show? Things like that.
The only concert that I've seen during the plague is Philadelphia oriented, and you will appreciate this. This week, the great, and I do mean the great, Tommy Conwell is coming on with me this week. He played at this 118 in Wayne out in Western, the Western suburbs. And my wife and I went up on like a 103-degree day, had a foot soaker beer under this pavilion. And Tommy sat on a stool playing Tommy and playing Tom Petty songs and taking requests and playing old blues numbers. So, I've said I will feel whole when I have a beer at Merriweather. And this is, and I've talked to some of my sponsors and my friends about this here in town. Last year, I had to open my Google Calendar and like get rid of everything. Get rid of Rolling Stone shows, Pearl Jam dates, all of that stuff, right? Clean the whole calendar out. About a week and a half ago, I started to dabble to see what's in all. Now I got one shot. I'm getting the second shot next week. I'm starting to dabble to add things to the calendar again. And that kind of feels good. So when I found the Hoagie Fest and I found the date at the Man and I put it in my calendar, I'm like, all right, maybe it's going to happen and I'm going to appreciate it even more this time. How about that?
You know what? And I got my youngest on a high school tennis team, and I got to drive him up. I got to like wait around. I got to drive him up. So like, the tennis meet, it goes an extra 45 minutes. So I'm sitting there and my wife's like, well, it's inconvenient. Do you not want to do it? Not want to do it? Like, I want to cherish the fact I'm taking my kid to an activity. He's performing an activity, and I am sort of sitting there with a soda in my hand, reading my blog, and I'm not trapped in this house. I want to cherish every moment of that because I remember erasing, band competitions and school trips and things like that from that calendar. It was absolutely heart-wrenching. Things that we wanted to do for ourselves, things that we wanted to do for our families, inconveniences that we would grumble about and saying, this is what we lost. I'm going to give anything to get it back, and we're starting to get it back now.
Dude, I opened my Google Calendar this week, and I put great weather in my calendar for Tuesday or Wednesday, just so I go out and do something.
Yeah.
But I've been having musicians on. You've been listening to Baltimore Positive. We're mixing some football up. The Baltimore Positive conversation has moved all over the place, including toward the draft here and toward the season. I would just say this to you because it's been a little while since we've gotten together. And, you and I were combine people, Super Bowl people, training camp, running into each other. This last year of the weirdness of sports and baseball and all of that, football and this draft this weekend. And I'm an old guy. I miss the Saturdays, right? We got together at the bar and just did it all day. But I
Yeah.
like the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the format and what it is. This is going to be one of the really normal things we've done in a while, which isn't Hall and Oates at the Man or isn't anything like that. But the
Mhm.
draft, sitting home, thinking about football. The Ravens play in Vegas this year, Mike. Like the
Wow.
schedule's
Yeah.
coming out in a couple of weeks. Starting to put those things back into the calendar, it
Yeah.
really does make us feel whole.
A lot of us have been saying survive in advance for 2020. Survive in advance. We're moving from survive to advance now. And now is the time to say, yeah, we did the draft last year, and it was goofy and it was chaotic, and Dave Gettleman was in his basement with his mask on, and Bill Belichick's dog was drafting. And I remember even my office here was almost like pitch black around here and everything. And I'm still working from home. I did not go out to Cleveland this year, but I'm feeling like after we get this done, we're going to see mini camps, maybe not mini camps. We're going to see training camp that looks like training camp, and we're going to see other things that look like they are normal again. And it's going to time to springboard and say, when we're talking about football for next September, when we're talking about training camp or whatever, it's going to be outdoors, it's going to be in person, and it's not going to be this emergency situation because citizens are getting vaccinated, because we've had these opportunities, and we're going to get back to the way we love watching sports, not just football, but all sports, even the Orioles.
Well, okay, fair enough. There's your kick in the crotch for me on the way out the door. But I would say for all the weirdness of the scheduling and it coming out, that the days of the predictions of 12-4 and 11-5 are over with 17
Yeah.
games now. So we're gonna have the weirdness of the 17th game as well coming into this,
Yep.
and also from a football competitive standpoint for the things you write about and the things that really piss John Harbaugh off, the Players Association and COVID and the
Right.
war going on there underneath the war that happens at the baseball level. But on the football level, not practicing this spring,
Yeah.
I all that they went through last year to get where they are, this is going to
Mhm.
be the battle, between the union and between the teams is going to be how much field time there's going to be.
Right. And I think that last year taught the players that, and the owner, first of all, it doesn't cost the ownership any money to get rid of everything except training camp. That costs the ownership no money. It saves them a little money because they don't have to open the facility as much. Coaches are going to grumble, but coaches are going to grumble that they can't do 6 a days anymore. And the players look at what happened last year and say, you know what we didn't miss and had no impact on anything? In-person OTAs and mini camps. They did not impact the quality of the field on the field at all. Players did not have to go running to the headquarters in May to kind of go through sort of like this fish nor fowl type of practice. They want it to go away. And so right now they're using it as a bargaining chip. Well, COVID, there are still cases high. Not everybody's been vaccinated. Part of this is a lot of this rumbling started 6-8 weeks ago. We
Well,
didn't know
part
how
of
many
this is
people.
when the teams invest $10-15 million in players, they like to keep them around a little bit and make it feel like it's a full-time job, not a
Yeah,
part-time
and you
job,
know what?
right?
And you know what? Bosses like to see us come in and sit at our desks and do this, when we can do the same amount of work at home. And we all learned last year the same amount of work gets done at home. But we don't have to sit there with, and like, yes, boss, no, boss, staple my TPS reports and things like that. Football players are the same thing. Okay, training camp. If they say we don't need training camp, I think that's buckets. They're going to show up with all. But like, what's really going on in May that can't be handled? Make sure you have a Zoom meeting. We've got a collar on you right now. We got a Fitbit on you, so we know how much you're exercising. And if you show up out of shape on July 26th, you're going to lose your job anyway to the 6th-round pick. So you can do it that way. Players want to do it that way. I don't think it's going to be a permanent solution, but right now, COVID is the bargaining chip to say we want to do it again this way, at least in 2021.
Hey man, I miss hanging out. I hope we get a concert, and when I come to Philly, everybody's been giving me cheesesteak recommendations, and I need to get up there and do some eating and some rocking
Yes.
at some point. So you will see me. I will darken the doorstep of Philadelphia before it's all over with.
Can't wait. Can't wait to get out and see everybody again. You too as
But
well.
Mike Tanier from Philadelphia, the run and gun gangster. You can go find him out on Twitter and find him anywhere. The NFL and the draft are permitting great conversations. We're having fun here this week. Draft deals, Eric DeCosta, Friday afternoon, all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard as we send out the text. Luke will be monitoring all things Orioles and Yankees this week as well. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570. Taos in Baltimore, and we never stop talking. Baltimore, positive.